Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah shir. We're holding a Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel, and Mirtz Hashem, today we will be learning Daf Pei Daled Amud Beis. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on the very bottom line of Pei Daled. Did I say Amud Aleph? What I meant to say was we're going to be learning Pei Daled Amud Beis. We're continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on the very bottom line of Pei Daled Amud Aleph, Siman Shin Aleph, Sif Mem Aleph. Our learning today should be a schus for Achedik Beis Yisrael Hanasunim Batzaru Bashivya Ha'imdim Bein Bayom Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yotziem Mitzar L'Rvacha Me'Afelo La'Ira Mishibud L'Geula Hashta Bagalo of Isman Kariv and Amar Amen. Our learning should be a schus Refuah Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, Rachel Shava Bas Ittel Freda, Yitzchak ben Tzion ben Dusha, Tzvi ben Leah Miriam, Chavadas bas Rezel Serel, Dvar bas Shosha Bina, Rivka bas Shira Leah. They should have a refuah shalema b'saik shar chayla Yisrael. Our learning should also be a schus for all of our brothers and sisters who find themselves in harm's way. B'chol makom shehem. Says the Mechaber, Siman Shin Aleph, Sif Mem Aleph, bottom line, Pei Daled Amud Aleph. We're continuing to discuss the question of going out with different types of hats on Shabbos, going out to Rishus HaRabim. Now, if you remember in the previous year, we mentioned Shitas Rashi. Shitas Rashi, Rashi explains the Gemara in Eruvin that suggests that it is prohibited to go out with certain types of hats. Rashi suggests that the reason for this prohibition was that there are types of hats that can easily blow off your head in Rishus HaRabim. Should your hat blow off your head in Rishus HaRabim, you may come to pick up the hat and walk with it and carry it Dalan Amis in Rishus HaRabim, which could potentially be an Issa Daraisa. That's why the Chachamim said you're not allowed to go out with certain types of hats into Rishus HaRabim. The Mechaber adapts Rashi's stringency, and that's what we're going to see reflected here in Sif Mem Aleph. Says the Mechaber, Lotzeis b'Shabbos, to go out to the Rishus HaRabim on Shabbos, b'koiva sheberoishai, with a hat on your head, ha'osui lahagein mipnei hachama. This is a sun hat. This is a hat that's worn for the purpose of giving you shade from the sun. Now, the significance of the sun hat, the reason why the Mechaber is addressing specifically a sun hat, is because this was not a hat that was worn as your primary head covering. The assumption over here is that the fellow who's wearing this sun hat is wearing a yarmulke or some other kind of smaller head covering on his head. That's his primary head covering. He's wearing the sun hat on top of the primary head covering in order to give himself shade from the sun. Now, the reason that that is significant is what we're about to see now. Continues the Mechaber. You're going out wearing this sun hat, which is a hat that's on top of another hat. Yesh misha oiser, there are those that aser, and this would be based on Shitas Rashi. Yesh misha oiser mishum dechayshinan sheyagbienu aruach meroishai. There are those that say you cannot go out with such a hat. Why? Because they're concerned that the hat might blow off your head. And va'asilasri arba amis b'Rishus HaRabim. And then you might come to pick up the hat and carry it Dalan Amis b'Rishus HaRabim. Now, this is only a concern if it's a sun hat or some other kind of hat that is on top of a primary head covering. If you're wearing only one hat, then even if the hat should blow off, we're not concerned you're going to come to carry it Dalan Amis in Rishus HaRabim. You know why? Because you're not going to walk Begilui Rosh. You're not going to walk Dalan Amis with your head uncovered, right? You need a yarmulke. So we're not afraid that you're going to walk Dalan Amis in Rishus HaRabim without a hat. So if this hat would be your only head covering, there would be no room for concern. The problem is that the sun hat was typically worn on top of a primary hat. Oh, now should the sun hat get blown off your head, you might come to carry it Dalan Amis in Rishus HaRabim. So that's the reason for the prohibition over here. Now, says the Mechaber, these opinions that would prohibit wearing such a hat on Shabbos would only be Ela Imkein Hu Mehudik Baroishai. We're only going to answer it. We're only going to tell you that you can't wear it if it's not fastened firmly to your head. So Ella, there are those that prohibit wearing such a hat, Ella in keinu mehudik baroisha, unless it is firmly and tightly, the word mehudik means tightly, placed onto your head. Oy shehu amoik, or, and this is not really an or, it's another way of the hat being firmly attached to your head. Oy, or alternatively, shehu amoik, it has a very deep crown. Sharoisha nichnas lisoichai, so that it sits very low on your head. Your head goes up deep into the hat. And therefore, and therefore the wind can't blow it off your head. Oy, or alternatively, shehu kasher b'ritzua takas groinoi, or if it's tied with a strap under your chin. Because in any of those cases, there's no room for a concern. If it's a very tight, well-fitting hat, it's not going to blow off. If your head can go up deep into the hat, into the height of the hat, it's not going to blow off. If you've got a chin strap fastening it to you, we don't have to be concerned that it's going to blow off. So again, the prohibition that the Mechaber is putting forth over here is, you have a sun hat. The sun hat was typically worn on top of a primary hat. Therefore, there's room for concern that you might walk in Rishos Harabim, the hat might blow off, and now you might pick it up and carry it Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim, because you're wearing a yarmulke, so you could walk Dalet Amos, so now you might come and carry it. It's a windy day, and the hat blew off. You don't want to put it right back on your head. It's going to blow off again. So you're going to go walk Dalet Amos with it in Rishos Harabim. But if it's tight, or your head goes deep into it, or it's got a chin strap, then we won't worry, because there's no room to worry that it might blow off. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Kuf Nun Gimel. Ha'asi lahagain, we're talking here about a sun hat that's made to shade you from the sun. La'afuke stam koiva, this stands in contrast to a regular hat, sha'adam noise al roishay, that a person wears on his head as a primary head covering. In that case, ein lachush tiyese la'asui arba amos. In the case of such a hat, we don't have any room for concern that you might come to carry it Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim. Because you're not going to walk with your head uncovered Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim. But this sun hat that we're discussing here, the minig was to wear it on top of a small hat. So says the Beis Yosef and other Achronim. Umizen nilmoid. Now, the Chavetz Chaim brings this halacha down to us. I like to say all the time, where does this come back to us? Says the Mishnah Berurah, I'll show you where this comes back to us. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Mizen nilmoid. From here we could learn. Dehu adin kaivar mishalanu. This halacha is very pertinent to our hats. Im noise oisan b'rishos harabim al kaiva katan kanohug. If you walk outside to the Rishos Harabim on Shabbos, wearing your hat on top of your yarmulke, which the Chavetz Chaim says is kanog, that's the custom, that's what people customarily do. Most people, I dare say, wear their hat on top of their yarmulke. Says the Chavetz Chaim, yesh li zoher, you have to be careful, sheyeh mehudik al roishay. You have to make sure that your hat fits properly. You have to make sure that your hat is nice and firmly placed on your head. Why? Because otherwise, Shema Yipol, if your hat is loose and you're wearing it on top of your yarmulke, then we have to be afraid that you're going to go out to the Rishos Harabim, your hat's going to blow off, and now since you're wearing a yarmulke, you could pick up your hat and walk with it Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim. So Shema Yipol, maybe the hat will fall off. Vasil Asuye Arba Amos. So you want to know where this halacha comes back to us? This halacha comes back to us, says the Mishnah Berurah. When you go to Kova, when you go to the Hat Source, when you go to Bancraft, I'm not giving a rabbinic endorsement to any one particular hat store. When you go to your hat store, to your favorite hat store, to buy your hat, make sure that they fit you well. Make sure that the hat is nice and fitted tightly to your head so that it would not blow off in a ruach mitzuya. You're not mechuyev to worry about a hurricane, but you have to make sure that your hat fits well so that it's not going to blow off in a normal wind. Because if it's a hat that could blow off in a normal wind, it's questionable. Well, according to Mishnah Berurah, it seems you can't wear it in Rishos Harabim with a yarmulke underneath it. Because if it blows off, you might come to carry it Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim. Continues the Mishnah Berurah. V'chein bebreitel, sha'aminik by lahakel v'chanal. So too with this Germanic style of hat called a breitel that the Mishnah Berurah spoke about in the previous year, which he said the minig was to wear it. Im noisa kaiva cotton tachtav. If you wear a yarmulke underneath the breitel, yizar, you have to take care. Shalo yetze by b'rishos harabim. The Mishnah Berurah says over here that this breitel was a hat that you would not be allowed to go out to Rishos Harabim with if you're wearing a yarmulke under it. The hastama ain't a mahudik. Apparently these breitlach were loose hats, and since it's a loose hat, you're not allowed to go out to Rishos Harabim with it with a yarmulke underneath. Because we certainly would need to be concerned that the breitel might blow off and you might come to carry it al namas in Rishos Harabim, since your head is uncovered. So just to give a sikum over here, where this halacha comes back to us, everybody has the custom to go out on Shabbos, even where there's no Erev. They have the custom to go out on Shabbos wearing a hat with a yarmulke underneath it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that your hat fits well. It can't be a hat that just blows off your head very easily. Because if it's a hat that blows off your head very easily, you're not really allowed to wear it out in Rishos Harabim. Why? Because you have to be choshed. It might blow off. Since you're wearing a yarmulke, you could walk Dalet Amos because your head's covered. So you might come, pick up your hat, and walk Dalet Amos with it in Rishos Harabim. Now, I saw something very interesting. I saw brought down in one of the Dirshu footnotes a tshuva from the Shevet HaLevi, a tshuva from Rav Vosner, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, where, and I looked up the tshuva, where Rav Vosner was asked a shaila. Okay, you're walking in Rishos Harabim, and your hat blows off. Are you allowed to stop, pick up your hat, don't walk, stop, pick up your hat, and put it back on your head? And Rav Vosner says, of course you're allowed to. Why not? You're not walking Dalet Amos, you're not walking at all. You're allowed, if you're standing still in Rishos Harabim, you're allowed to pick something up. You're not allowed to walk with it. The Isser of HaTorah is walking with something Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim, but just to pick something up and put it down, you didn't do anything. So you want to stop, pick up your hat, and put it on your head? Rav Vosner says, that's no problem. Then Rav Vosner says, and what are you going to be choshed for? You're going to be choshed that once he picks up the hat and he's holding it in his hand, he might walk Dalet Amos with it in Rishos Harabim? Says Rav Vosner, there's no room to be choshed for that. Why? Because how can he walk Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim? His head is uncovered. That's what Rav Vosner writes in the tshuva. Now, the implication of Rav Vosner's tshuva is that according to Rav Vosner, if you would be walking in Rishos Harabim and you're wearing a yarmulke, and you're wearing a hat over your yarmulke, and your hat blows off, and now you want to pick it up, it sounds almost like Rav Vosner would say that you're not allowed to. Why? Because now you might pick it up, you're holding it in your hand, you're wearing a yarmulke, now there's nothing to prevent you from walking Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim. So now we have to be choshed, you might pick, your hat blew off. You did everything Kedasu Kedin. You made sure that your hat was a well-fitting hat. A fluke happened. A strange wind came, not a Ruach Mitzuya. A Ruach Sheina Mitzuya came and blew your hat off. You're wearing a yarmulke. You go, you pick up your hat. Now, you're wearing a yarmulke. You're holding your hat. You might come walk Dalet Amos in Rishos Harabim. It sounds from the tshuva like Rav Vosner would say that it's also to pick the hat up. I asked a Paisik this morning. I asked a very choshev of Paisik this morning. I'm walking in Rishos Harabim. I'm wearing a yarmulke. I'm wearing a hat. My hat blows off. Am I allowed to pick it up and put it back on my head? The Paisik said, are you walking? I said, no. I'm going to stop still, pick up my hat, put it on my head, and then after it's on my head, continue walking. Paisik looked at me like I'm out of my mind. He said, of course you're allowed to. Like, why are you asking such a shaila? So I told him what Rav Vosner says in the tshuva. His reaction was, no. There's no room to answer it. Okay, so that's what I have from a Paisik over here, that this is not a shaila. Okay, incidentally, in the same conversation with the tshuva, with this Paisik, I referenced back to yesterday's shir. And I asked him about the Chazon Ish that I mentioned yesterday. We spoke yesterday about things that are attached to your garment, maybe something ripped off. So to give you a reminder, we spoke about the case where you have, let's say, a loop. You have two straps, one strap attached to this side of your coat, one strap attached to that side of the coat. The way you close the coat is you tie the two straps together. One strap fell off. So we learned in the Mishnah Berurah that the other strap that remains on your beged, the Chayyadim said could be a very big problem. Why? Because even though it's not intrinsically chashuv, it's a plain fabric strap, but since you intend on repairing the beged by putting on the other strap, so the remaining strap is chashuv. Since it's chashuv, it's not bottled to the beged. So it's not functional. You can't tie it closed. The other side is missing. It's not decorative. If anything, it looks a little bit shlemazeldik. You're walking around with one strap but not the other strap. And it's chashuv. Why is it chashuv? Because you intend on repairing the other side. So you're going to use it. So it has chashivas to you. It's chashuv. It's not bottled to the beged. Therefore, it's a shaila. I brought down the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish says if you have that loop inside your coat that you use to hang the coat on the nail, and one side of the loop opens up, so now the loop is hanging loose, are you allowed to go out on Shabbos? The Chazon Ish says no. Why? Because since you intend on repairing the loop is chashuv. It's not bottled to the beged. It's not functional. You can't hang the coat by it because it's open. It's not decorative. And it's chashuv. Why is it chashuv? Because you intend on fixing it. So therefore, it's not bottled to the beged. You're not allowed to go out. Also, the belt loop, I said. The pants. Your belt loop on your pants. What if it opens up? Are you allowed to go out with that on Shabbos? Chazon Ish says no. Same reason. Right now, it's not functional, it's not decorative, and it's chashuv, because you intend on repairing it. Therefore, you're not allowed to go out with it. I asked the Paisik about it. He said, yes, we're machmer like the Chazon Ish. You're not allowed to go out with such a thing. Then I asked him another shaila. How about the extra buttons that are often sewn onto your shirt or sewn into your coat? Turns out that there's a tshuva from Rav Moshe Zechet Tzaddik Koshel Vrach in the Igris, where the Rishiva Zatzal says that's okay. Now, again, let's analyze it. It's not functional. It's not doing anything for you right now. It's not decorative. It's inside the coat. It's not decorative. Is it chashuv? Well, you don't want to lose it because you want to have the extra button. So on the one hand, you would be tempted to say it's chashuv. But what the Paisik told me is that in this case is different than the loop. The loop, the chashivas that the coat hanging loop has, is that you intend on fixing it. You intend on doing something with it. The extra button in the coat, you have no intention of doing anything with it. You intend on leaving it there exactly the way it is. The loop is not the way you want it to be. It's hanging. So it's not the way you want it to be. It's not on the beged in the derech that it should be on the beged. The way it's supposed to be on the beged is it's supposed to be affixed on both ends. Now it's not. It's hanging. It's hanging open. So it's not the way it's supposed to be. And it's not working. It's not functional. And it's not decorative. And it's chashuv, so it can't be bottled to the beged. Not so the extra button. The extra button is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And it's the derech. It is the derech. And chashivas, it's a simple button. It's not so chashuv. So it's bottled to the beged, and you are allowed to go out with the extra buttons that are sewn into your beged. Okay, now, let's go weiter over here. Ice cotton kuf dun dalid. So the Mechaber said this sun hat, there is the Yesh Aribrim that you can't go out with it to Rishus Harabim. Says the Mishnah Berurah cotton kuf dun dalid, Birishus Harabim. Now, let's remember, Rishus Harabim, when the Mechaber uses the words Rishus Harabim, he usually means a Rishus Harabim Gomor, a real bona fide Rishus Harabim, which is a Rishus Daraisa. Your house is a Rishus HaYachid Daraisa. If you go out to a real bona fide Rishus Harabim, a Rishus Harabim Daraisa, 16 amas wide, Hiluch, Sheish Ribu, 600,000 people, travel it. So that's a real bona fide Rishus Harabim. That would be an Issa Daraisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Betaz mashma, from the words of the Taz, it is implied, Da'afilu chutz le'erev yesh lahachmir bazeh. This doesn't mean that you're not allowed to go out with the sun hat to a real Rishus Daraisa. No, even a Darabanan would be a problem, says the Taz. What would be a Darabanan? So he says over here, Michutz le'erev, to go outside of the Erev. What he means is, let's say a chotzer, right? A chotzer is really a Rishus HaYachid. Midrabanan, you're not allowed to carry in a chutzner, right? You have a chutzner. It's got a bunch of houses in it. It's surrounded by a fence. Midaraisa, you're allowed to carry in the chutzner. Midaraisa, it's a rishus hayachid. Midrabanan, you're not allowed to carry unless you make an eruv, iruve chatzeris, right? You have to join the whole chutzner in an eruv. Let's say you don't have one. You didn't make it iruve chatzeris. Then it's an issa drabanan to carry from the house to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the house. Says the Taz, to go out with such a hat would be usher even in such a situation. Or, like I say, to bring it back down to us, we usually assume that our streets and our roads are, for the most part, in most, at least small villages and small towns, they're not bona fide rishus harabims. But we don't carry outside. We make an eruv, right? So what if you don't have an eruv? You're outside of the eruv. Says the Taz, to wear such a sun hat outside the eruv, even if it's only a carmelis, even if it's only a rishus d'Rabbanan, it's not a bona fide rishus harabim d'Oraisa. The Taz says this would be usher as well. Vayin l'kamon simin shin gimel sif yud ches u'bamasha kasav dusham b'Mishnah Berurah, where the Mishnah Berurah is going to go into detail about the question of women wearing jewelry and wearing other types of things when you're not dealing with a rishus harabim d'Oraisa. Okay, now let's move along to Sif Mem Beis, 4 lines down in the Mechaber, a very interesting Sif. Says the Mechaber, Ha'moitzi tefillin b'Shabbos b'bizayin. Somebody's walking outside on Shabbos, and he finds tefillin. He finds tefillin that are laying b'bizayin in a disgraceful way. What does that mean, that they're b'bizayin? B'makom she'ein mishtamrin. Tefillin are laying out in Rishus Harabim in an unprotected area. So I just want to be clear. When the Mechaber says, and this is taken from a Gemara in Eruvin, when the Mechaber says that you found tefillin that are bibizayin, it doesn't mean that you found tefillin that are actively being disgraced. You found tefillin and there's a dog kicking them around, chas v'chalila, or there's goyish kids using them as a softball, chas v'chalila. That's mamish bibizayin. What the Mechaber means is they're bizayin to the extent that they're laying in an unprotected area. That alone is a bizayin for tefillin. The fact that they're laying in an unprotected area. So I might see tefillin b'Shabbos bizayin. Somebody finds tefillin that are abandoned in a fashion that is a bizayin. B'makom she'ein mishtamrin, in an unprotected area. Okay, what do you do now? It's Shabbos. The tefillin are in the Rishus Harabim. You want to protect them. You really want to transport them back into the city. You want to transport them to a makom mishumer. What could you do? So the Mechaber breaks it down. He says it depends. First of all, im yesh sakana. If it would be dangerous for you to either handle the tefillin, wear the tefillin, or be caught with the tefillin. Im yesh sakana. Why would there be such a sakana? Shegazru shaloi laniach tefillin. Nebuch, you live in a time where the government made a decree against tefillin. So you're not allowed to wear tefillin. If you wear tefillin, the government, they might kill you. If you're caught holding tefillin, they might kill you. If you're caught standing by tefillin that are laying in Rishus Harabim and watching over them, they might kill you. So you don't have any of those eitzes. So says the Mechaber, im yesh sakana, if it's dangerous to deal with the tefillin, shegazu shaloi laniach tefillin, because the government made a decree against wearing tefillin. So then what can you do? Mechasan, cover them. Find something that you could cover them with, and you have to be able to cover it without carrying the cover, Daled Amos in Rishos Harabim. So maybe stand next to the item, take off your jacket, lay your jacket down on top of the tefillin, and go. So mechasan, cover up the tefillin, v'hailichlai, and go. You can't stay and watch them, because if they catch you standing and watching the tefillin, you might be in danger. Okay, so that's what you do if there's a danger. V'im ein sakana. You know what? Let's break for a second and let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah is cut kuftun hey. Mishnah Berurah is cut kuftun hey. Shegazur shaloi laniach. The government made a decree that you're not allowed to put on tefillin, and therefore v'hu yarei, and therefore he's afraid gam kein lo hilichan biyadai pachas pachas be'arba amos. He doesn't have the eitzah of picking up the tefillin and transporting them back into the town by taking them, in small spurts, a little bit less than Daled Amos, which is an eitzah that we're going to see soon. One way of transporting them would be pick up the tefillin, walk 3.5 amas, and then put the tefillin down. Now you didn't do an Issa Daraisa. You didn't walk Daled Amas in Rishos HaRabim carrying something. You did an Issa Darabanan, but not an Issa Daraisa. Now pick them up again, walk another 3.5 amas, and put them down. And keep doing that until you get into, back to the town, to a protected area. Right? But over here, you can't do that because there's a sakana. You can't get caught carrying the tefillin. If you tried this, you would end up being in a sakana. So again, what the Mechaber is saying over here is, if it's a sakana, so you have no eitzah, you can't put them on and wear them and walk with them back to town because they catch you wearing tefillin, they'll kill you. You can't carry them because if they catch you carrying them, they'll kill you. So you can't do pakas vidal amas. You also, and this the Mishnah Berurah doesn't say straight out, you also don't have the option to stay there and watch them, because that could put you in sakana as well. So that was the first case. Now let's go weiter in the Mechaber. Them ain't sakana, but what if there's no danger? So then the Mechaber says, now you have eitzis that you could do to protect the tefillin. Im yesh behem, the first thing you have to do is, you have to make sure that these really are tefillin. In other words, if we're going to allow you to do something that we ordinarily would not allow you to do on Shabbos, if we're going to relax Isurei D'Rabbanan so that you could protect these tefillin, the very first thing you have to do is make sure that they actually are tefillin. Now, you have to make sure that they are tefillin. I mean, they're tefillin. You're looking at them, they're tefillin. Not so fast, says the Mechaber. You have to look. Im yesh behem ritzuos. If they are full tefillin, they have ritzuos attached to them, and the ritzuos are tied with the proper knots. They have the proper kisharim on them. Shebekach nicker shehem tefillin v'loy kemeyos. If they have ritzuos that are knotted in the proper fashion and everything else, then you know that they're bona fide tefillin. But if they don't have ritzuos, says the Mechaber, you know what they might be? They might be kemeyos. We learned about kemeyos, these amulets that people would wear for refuah, etc. Apparently, and the Mishnah Berurah is going to explain this to us, apparently there was a custom that some people made kemeyos to look like tefillin. But when they made a kemeya to look like tefillin, they didn't spend the money to go put on proper ritzuos and to go knot the ritzuos in the proper fashion. No, they got a necklace and they hung the tefillin-looking kemeya on a necklace of some kind. They're on a string. They didn't go all the way. So says the Mechaber, the first thing you have to do is ascertain that these really are tefillin and they're not kemeyos. How do you ascertain that? By seeing that they have ritzuos, and the ritzuos have the proper knots. They have the proper ksharim. Okay, so they have ritzuos. Vehein keshuros, and they have the proper knots, and the knots are closed. So the shalrosh has the kesher of the shalrosh in the back of your head, and the shalyad has the kesher tying the ritzuos onto the bottom, and therefore sheyachal l'lavshan. So now these are tefillin that are all set up in the proper way, and you could put them on. You could put the shalrosh on your head, and you could put the shalyad on your arm. In that case, says the Mechaber, you know what you should do? Machnisan zug zug, put on one pair at a time, derech levisha, in the normal way that you wear tefillin, and walk with it back into town, ad she'achnisan kulam, until you transport them all into town. So again, what happened over here? Guy's walking out Rishus HaRabim, and he finds mutal b'bezayin. He finds 5 pairs of tefillin that are sitting in Rishus HaRabim in a makom she'ein mishumer, in an unprotected area. Okay, says the Mechaber, check that they're really tefillin. They have ritzuos. Check, they're really tefillin. They're not kemeyos. Okay, the tefillin are tied in the normal way, so now you can mamish wear them. Okay, so take one shalrosh, put it on. Take one shalyad, put it on, even though it's Shabbos. Now you're wearing them derech levisha. You're wearing them in the normal fashion. The Mishnah Berurah is going to say, even though we paskin that Shabbos lavs man tefillin hu, you don't wear tefillin on Shabbos, but still, since it's normal to wear tefillin during the week, even on Shabbos, the tefillin are called a tachshit. And therefore, you could put on the tefillin. You could only put on one pair, zug zug, one pair at a time. Put on one pair, walk back to town, and put them in a protected area. Then go back out to Rishus HaRabim, put on another pair, walk back to town, put it in a protected area, and so on and so forth until you manage to transport all of the tefillin back into town. Okay, let's break here for a second. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is Kuf Nun Vav. The first thing you have to do is you have to ascertain shehem tefillin v'loy kamein. You have to ascertain that they're really bona fide tefillin and they're not kamein, they're not amulets. The ein behen ritzuos, because the Mishnah Berurah explains, if you find the bottom without ritzuos, amrinon deshem kamein hein, then we can't see the parshias inside. We have no idea what's inside. If there are no ritzuos, we have to worry that they might be kamein. The tarach adam lepa'amim lasis kameya ke'ein tefillin. Because back in the day, some people would go through the trouble of making a kameya that looked like tefillin. V'nafkamina, and the nafkamina, of course, is she'ein tzarich l'shamran u'lahakshich alein klal. If they're not tefillin, if they're kamein, then you have no responsibility to these at all. If they're kamein, you don't have to transport them, you don't have to watch them. We're certainly not going to relax any Yisurei D'Rabbanan at all, right? If they're kamein, just go on your merry way. The Magen Avram writes back in Chelik Aleph, in Siman Yud Aleph and Hilchos Tefillin, the Bizmanenu, nowadays, ein motzi lasis kamei kein tefillin. Nowadays, there's no room to think about this. Nobody makes kameyas that look like tefillin nowadays. They don't even really make kameyas. There might be some people, I don't know if any of you ever saw anybody with a kameya. But definitely that we should worry that if we see the bottom of tefillin in Rishus HaRabim, they might not be tefillin and they might be kameyas, says the Magen Avram. Nowadays, that's not germane. Therefore, nowadays, if you would see bottom of tefillin out in Rishus HaRabim, you would have to at least stay and watch them until after Shabbos because they're definitely tefillin. Cut Kufdon Zion. The Mechaber said if they have ritzuos and the ritzuos are tied, what the Mechaber obviously wants to say is sheberoish yesh kesher shalroish. The shalroish has the proper knot for the back of the head of a shalroish. The chein b'shalyad, and the shalyad has the kesher shalyad. Masukad karoi, they're done the right way. Lefim midasai, and they're basically your size. V'loy gadol yoser, they're not much too big so that they'll fall off. Sheyehei yakal olav shay, they're tied in a way that you could wear them. Now let's say you find these tefillin and they have ritzuos, so they're not kamein, but they're not tied. Ubeshabbos haloi also lasis kesher. Now on Shabbos you're not allowed to make the kesher of tefillin because that's a kesher shakayama. It would be an issa deraisa to make a kesher. In kain lo yuchalach nisan derech levisha zugzug. So then this eitzah of the Mechaber, to wear one pair at a time and transport it back into town, you wouldn't be able to do, right? If a shel roish doesn't have a kesher on the back, you have no way of wearing it. It doesn't have the circle to put it on your head. So if it doesn't have a kesher, you don't have this option. Then tzarich lahamtin at shetech shachol aviyam. So then you would have to watch over them until after Shabbos. If you could wear them, so then the Mechaber said put on one pair at a time and transport one pair at a time to a makom meshumer. Now, why one pair at a time? If I found 3 pairs of tefillin, why can't I put on all 3? I'm not looking to be yotzei the mitzvah of tefillin. Adarabah, if I had kavana to be yotzei the mitzvah of tefillin, it would be a problem of Baal Tosef, because we hold that Shabbos lavs man tefillinu. If you put on tefillin on Shabbos kedei to be yotzei the mitzvah, that would be a shaila of Baal Tosef. So I'm certainly not trying to be yotzei the mitzvah. So I'll put on 3 shel roishes. I'll have one over here, one over here, one over here. So I'll transport and I'll put on 3 shalyads, one here, one here, one here, and I'll go back to town that way. Says the Mishnah Berurah, no, you can't do that. Why? Says the Mishnah Berurah, you can only put on one at a time. Then you transport it to a protected area of a and then take it off. Then go back and get another pair. Now, even though, what are we talking about putting on tefillin on Shabbos? Shabbos lavzman tefillin. You're right. Shabbos lavzman tefillin. But still, since it's the derech to wear tefillin during the week, it's at least raised up to the level of a takshit. Val Baal Tosef ain't over. You're not over Baal Tosef. Came to enema shasai l'shem mitzvah. You're not having kavanah to be yotzei the mitzvah. If you did, you would have a problem. Now, what's unspoken over here is you could only do one pair at a time. Why could you only do one pair at a time? Because again, focus on what the Mishnah Berurah is saying. The reason you're getting away with this is because the tefillin are a takshit. Why are the tefillin a takshit? Shabbos is lavzman tefillinu. Yeah, but it's the derech to wear them during the week. But that only works if you wear them the way it's the derech to wear them during the week. If you wear shel roish and you have it popping out of your head on the side of the head over here, you're not wearing it derech levisha. That's not the way tefillin are worn. If so, it's not a takshit. If so, you can't wear it. So that's why you can only wear one pair at a time. You have to put it on the normal way and transport it to a makom mishumer, then come back and get the next pair. Now, an interesting Mishnah Berurah continues the Mishnah Berurah. Kasav Magen Avram. The Magen Avram writes, the isha hamoitzeis tefillin. Let's say a woman is walking in Rosh Hashanah and she finds tefillin. What should she do? Says the Magen Avram, asura lahachnisan b'Shabbos af derech malbush. For a woman, she would not be allowed to put on the tefillin to transport it to a makom mishumer, even if she puts it on derech malbush. She puts it on the right way. You know, she she knows all the halachas. She puts on the tefillin the right way. She can't do it. The kaven de eine regila lahanicha b'chayil, because since a woman doesn't wear tefillin during the week, have a lamasir legaba. So for her, it's not a malbush. For her, it's not a takshit. So she can't do this. She doesn't have this option. V'yesh b'akrayim cholkam alav. There are those akrayim who take issue with the Magen Avram. With Sfir Lu, they hold the kaven de b'dina de gemara ein alein iser bazer rak de lechatchila einochan lanichan. Even though Medina de Shas, there's no isser for a woman to wear tefillin. It's not usser for a woman to wear tefillin. So therefore the Akrayim say, Lo mikri masir legaba. If it would be usser for her to wear tefillin, then yes, it's a masoi. But it's not usser for her to wear tefillin. Lechatchila women don't wear tefillin. Okay, but still, it's normal for people to wear tefillin, so she puts it on. It's to be considered a takshit. It's not going to be considered a masui. That's what these Akrayim say. They argue in the Magen Avram. V'ayin b'shar melech perk yutes milch Shabbos. Take a look at the Sefer Shar Melech. Shemotza b'shita ksav yad the harayvid v'harashba cholkim bazer. That the Ravid and the Rashba argue on this. Oid kasav Magen Avram l'shitasai. The Magen Avram writes according to his same reasoning. The miyatza isha b'talus b'tzuyetzes. Let's say a woman puts on a talus. I don't know. Maybe a husband and wife are walking in Rosh Hashanah and it's 90 degrees outside and the husband is wearing his talus and he's chalishing from the heat, and the woman is one of these people who are not so hot. And she says, you know what? I'll wear the talus for you. So they stop in the middle of Rosh Hashanah and she says, take off the talus, give it to me. I'll put on the talus. I'll wear the talus. And a woman wants to go to Rosh Hashanah wearing a talus. Says the Magen Avram. First of all, says the Mishnah Berurah in the brackets, what are we talking about here? Ainu talus shal mitzvah. Shein regilin l'lavsho. We're talking about a shul talus, his Shabbos talus, right? A woman doesn't wear such a talus. Kiyim l'shei mitzvah bavad. We only wear such a talus l'shei mitzvah, right? So it's mamish a talus, the talus that you wear to shul. Says the Mishnah Berurah that the Magen Avram says chayeves chatos. It would be an issa daraisa for the woman to wear a talus outside of Rosh Hashanah. The kaven de ein isha regila lelech b'talus kazeh. Since it's absolutely not the derech of a woman to walk out with such a talus, have a masi legaba. For her, it's a masui. However, there are those who disagree. Let's go back now to the Mechaber. Okay, so far over here in Sif Ben Beis, what the Mechaber has said is, you found tefillin unprotected in Rosh Hashanah. Step number one, ascertain that they're really tefillin and they're not kameis. How do you do that? Do they have ritzuis? If they have ritzuis, they're real tefillin. Mishnah Berurah told us from the Magen Avram, nowadays that's not negayah to us. Even if you find batim without ritzuis, we assume that they're tefillin. We're not going to assume that they might be kameis. Okay, so now you know that they're tefillin. Is it a shas sakana? If it's a time of sakana, there's nothing you can do. You can't be caught with them. You can't be caught protecting them. Fine, cover them up and leave. If it's not a shas sakana, okay, now if you ascertain that they're tefillin, there's something that you could do. Could you do? Well, if they have the proper ksharim and you could put them on, put on one pair at a time, wear it derech levisha, wear it back to town and put it in a protected area. But now the Mechaber says, what if v'im hayu rabim? What if you didn't find one pair of tefillin, two pairs of tefillin, three pairs of tefillin? You found 25 pairs of tefillin. I don't know. A batamacher or a sofer was walking by over here, and he got a phone call, and he put down a sack of tefillin, and he got distracted, and he left. And now you found over here 35 pairs of tefillin. And it's a 20-minute walk from where you are back to town. There isn't enough time in the day for you to put on one pair of tefillin at a time, go transport it back to town, come back, get the next one, etc., etc. No matter what you do, there are going to be tefillin left over here in Rishus HaRabim in an oifen shel bezayin. V'im al yurabim, if there are too many, shelo yaspik l'lavshan u'lachnisan zug zug, you don't have enough time to wear them one at a time back into town. So what should you do? Says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Mechaber, Yachshech aleim ad halayla v'yaviem. Stay there, watch the tefillin until Ois Shabbos, and then pick them up and bring them home. V'im yarei lahashich mipnei listim. Now let's say you can't do that. Let's say it's a bad neighborhood, and you can't park yourself over here until the end of Shabbos. It's a bad neighborhood. So then, you know what you should do? Ma'lichem pachas pachas me arba amos. Pick them up, walk 3.5 amos, put them down. Pick them up again, walk 3.5 amos, put them down. And by doing that, each time less than 4 amos, so now you're only doing an Issa D'Rabbanan, not an Issa D'Oraisa, we're going to relax the Issa D'Rabbanan, and we're going to allow you to transfer them back into town to a Makom Meshuber by doing it this way. Or what you could do is, if you have another fellow with you, nostam lechaveroi, v'chavera lechaveroi, ad shemegia lechatzar chitzayna. Or what you could do is, if you have enough people that you can make an assembly line back to town, you pick it up and you don't transport it at all. You pick it up and you hand it to another guy. And then he takes it and he hands it off to another guy. He takes it, hands it off to another guy. And you make a chain going all the way back to town. In this way, nobody is transporting it to Al-Amas in Rishus HaRabim at all. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you find a lot of tefillin, shelo yaspik, there isn't enough time. If you find so many that no matter what you do, you don't have enough time to put on one pair at a time and transport them back to town, so therefore, lo yilbash klal, then better don't use the shtick of putting it on and wearing it back to town at all, since you're not going to be able to take care of all the tefillin in that way. Stay. Better stay there, guard them until Ois Shabbos, and then after Shabbos, you will bring them into town. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discuss of limud HaTorah we make against Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shem should send Yeshuas, Refuas, Parnas, and Shidduchim to all those in need. We should be zeicher to see the Bias Girl Tzedek B'Meher V'Yameinu. Amen. Be well.